Okay, so I just made myself a little list here of some things I want to get done today. And so I want to put OBS recording software on the laptop so I can show you guys the ClearPath Servo tuning software. I had a good chat with John from Technic the other day. He gave me over an hour of his time, which was awesome. Went through a few different things, and I think it's the best thing to do is to show you guys properly using screen recording software how that that software looks and how I'm going to use it. So, and then so I'll tune the servos, and then I've got to put Mac 4 on the laptop so I can start testing out the servos basically, and then I've got to connect to the Ethernet smooth stepper, and I need to get some fans for the enclosure, and I'm going to get a new nice fan, preferably a 4-wire fan for the radiator on the machine, and then I need to get a new pump as well, so I'm just going to order that because I don't have to drive too far down there to get it. So having said that, I'll show you guys how I order stuff on Element 14. It's got some really useful search features. So as you can see here, there's got all these different search criteria fields. So for this one, I was looking at 12 volt DC because I'm trying to use 12 volt DC a fair bit, so that's fairly common, fairly readily available. I also have a 5 volt and a 24 volt DC power supply in there because I need that for some of the other hardware. So I was looking at the options for, so I'll give you guys an example. So if we turn off the 24 volts, so we're using 12 volt DC, and then I want to use a 120 mil fan. They're fairly common, they move a lot of air, they're sort of good bang for buck with their price for how much air they move. It's kind of like a go-to for me. As long as you can physically fit the 120 mil fan on the enclosure, then that's all good. And the way I've set up the cooling on the radiator, the whole radiator 3D print that I've created for that needs a 120 mil fan as well. So and then what I'm going to choose here is a 4-lead PWM. So you've got power, we got negative and positive, then you got PWM control, so that's like a variable input signal to the fan to tell it how fast to go. And then you've got sensor output so that you know if the fan stalls or for whatever reason it's not spinning, and you can even tell if it's not spinning fast enough or whatever, maybe there's some dust blocking it up or whatever it is. So because that spindle's worth it's worth thousands of dollars, I want to make sure that I'm protecting it, and it'll give me good peace of mind for if I leave the machine running in the workshop unattended, then things like this will help protect it and give me the confidence to leave it running lights out. So I've got those in there, let's show results, see what we get. Okay, so we've got 3 options here because it's quite specific, so they don't have many options, but there's a few to choose from. First of all, this one here, available for back order. I'm not even going to touch that. So 1 available for next day, 19. So both of these options are good. So let's have a look at what we've got. Basically, you've got a lower and a higher volume of airflow, and then the price is, so we've got $30 or $63, and what's interesting is if you have a look at the price, the power rating, we've got 10 watts and 20 watts. So if you think about how many amps they're going to draw, this one's going to be less than 1 amp, this one's going to be more than 1 amp, and the conductors that I'm using on my 9-wire cable is, they can use roughly 1 amp, they can carry roughly 1 amp safely per wire. So that means if I run this fan, I can't really choose this fan unless I have I can have 2 wires for positive and 2 wires for negative. It's a bit silly really, So running this at 12 volts, I don't have to run it at 12 volts, I can use 24 volts. So I'd probably rather get the high speed fan, and then if I need to, I can run it at full power. But if I don't need to, I can run it at half power, and then the life of the fan should be longer, and potentially it'll be quieter as well. That's a whole nother conversation to go into, but so let's have a look. 24 volts, tick these 2. For some reason there's one 24 volt and one 24 volt DC, just the way the manufacturers have labelled voltages, I guess. Might as well turn off the 24, sorry, the 12, and make it a bit easier for you guys to see what's going on. So everything else is the same. Now we're just looking at the 24 volt option, and we've only got two options. One is well over $100. It's pretty expensive. However, the other one is this other one, this high speed fan we were looking at, still the 20 watts. Everything else is the same. It's just that it runs on 24 volts instead of 12 volts. So I'm going to assume you guys know how to work out wattage with voltage times amps equals watts. And so obviously that's going to be less than 1 amp to run this at full power. So we've got that open in this other tab here. And we've got availability, 23 available. So this seems like a fairly common unit. That's an indication that this might be supported in future. So if one of these burns out, I can replace it fairly easily. Hopefully that's a pretty common part they keep in stock. And yeah, this looks like a good option. And then if I choose this for the radiator and the electrical enclosure, then I can buy one and have a spare for both. So things like that's something else to think about as well. If you try and use the same part that's as common as possible through your build, and even through multiple builds, if you say I'm building other electrical things as well for clients or myself, and I try and use the same fan in all of them, then I can keep a couple as spares, and then I've got spares for everything. You know, it's very unlikely that they're all going to fail at once, and if one does fail and I need to use my spare, then I can just order another one. So you know, at $60 it's a little bit expensive to have a spare, but that's, I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable insurance sort of safety net there. So I'm probably going to go ahead and order 3 of these, and then I'll have one spare for those two, and yeah, that solves that problem pretty nicely. So yeah, if you're looking for parts and you need some really specific criteria, like for example, I might say I just want the most highest airflow fan that they have. So we'll clear all filters. So I don't care about anything else, I just want the highest flow rate. So we'll look at flow rate, we'll use metric, and I'll just scroll down here. So they've got one that moves, what is that, almost 2,000 cubic meters a minute. So let's just tick the first, say 3. So the first 3, that's the 3 highest power fans they've got. Okay, so yeah, then we can see, alright, which one, you know, if we want to move heaps of air for whatever reason in some application, we've got these different options here, and then you can see whether they're DC, AC, how big they are, whether they're available, this one's not available, etc. So yeah, it's quite a useful little tool that Element 14 has. I really like it, and basically it saves me a lot of time, and not just saves me time, but it also, I can find what products are available on the market, and it allows me to do better engineering, I guess, is probably a good way to sum it up. So, you know, like I have to move air through this enclosure. I want to find a solution, and yeah, so yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to cover that while I was ordering this. So yeah, there you go. Hope that helps. Thanks.